Hi everyone, my name is Courtney and welcome back to my channel. I'm still working on my end of the year videos and this is a part of that. Today I'm going to be discussing all the 2023 releases I read and some of the ones I wish I had read. So this year was definitely a slim year as far as 2023 releases go. Normally for new releases I read about 20-ish and this year was a lot more like 10 if you're excluding manga, which for this purpose I am. And the other interesting thing about all the novels that I read for this year that were new is that they tend to be between a 4 and a 3.5 stars. So nothing bad, but I don't think any of these ended up on my favorites for the year. So let's just kind of go through what I read. So the first one I read was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fae or Fairies. This is part historical fiction, part magical travel story, and it is about a young woman who is like in her professorship, something like that, very academia based. She is going on this journey to, I believe, Norway to kind of catalog the different fae in that region. She's very persnickety, she's very closed off, very aloof, and her plans kind of come crashing down when her academic rival shows up, who may or may not be a fae himself. He's like very charming, very debonair, very kind of like obsessed with himself. And this was a 3.5 star for me. I believe I discussed this in another video in full about reasons why I liked it, reasons why I didn't. But the main gist is I really love the characters, really like their dynamic. But for me, just like the execution of the book just didn't work perfectly. I'm still gonna continue on in the series, but it was like a 3.5 stars, 3 stars, just not my fave. Next book I have is Lost in the Moment and Found. This is by Shauna Maguire and it's a part of the Every Heart a Doorway series. I believe this is the 8th book in the series and I gave this a 3.75 stars. So not my least favorite in the series, not my favorite. In this one we are traveled to a different world, which tend to be more of my favorites in the series. And in this world, it is like an in-between world, maybe even like part of the center of this universe, or like an offshoot of like an important, it's like an important apex between all the different worlds. And basically it is a doorway world where different doors open into this world and different objects come into this world. And it's basically like a big junk museum kind of thing where a lot of lost items come in. And it's kind of unraveling the story of this world. I really liked what was set up. I really liked world. It was interesting to me. And I liked kind of the things that we were getting introduced into this world that could potentially become part of the series. There were some things that I wish would have been pushed on a little bit more to kind of add to like the thematic aspect. It felt like it was kind of one of the more thematic books where it felt like Shauna Maguire was trying to say something and I just wish it was a little bit more pushed on in the book. Basically, I liked it, didn't love it, not my favorite in the series, definitely not the worst one in the series. The next 2023 release I read was The Sun and the Star by Rick Riordan and Mark Oshiro, I believe. And this is a standalone novel in the Percy Jackson series following Nico as he and Will, his boyfriend, go on a journey to Tartarus. And this is a little bit different than a lot of other Rick's books. It's a lot darker, at least like tone-wise. Like the stuff that happens is dark as some of the other Percy Jackson books, but I feel like the tone is a lot darker. It's not as happy-go-lucky sunshine fun times, and it's basically Will and Nico having like their first like romantic kerfuffle, if you will, like basically them having like their first argument as a couple and them kind of going through different things that they've had problems with each other and kind of resolving that as they journey into Tartarus and resolve some other stuff that has happened in the series. I liked this. I personally like didn't love it. Like it was fun. I enjoyed my time reading it and I thought that the book did exactly what it needed to do to tell this kind of story. But like when you're going into a Percy Jackson book, you're kind of expecting a very particular kind of tone, kind of playfulness, and it was there, but again, like for what the story was trying to do, it had to take a little bit of a more reflective approach. And again, I think that's what the story needed, but it didn't make it always the most enjoyable to read, but I had a really good time. I gave it like a 3.75 stars. Still a great book, still recommend the series. I'm a big Percy Jackson fan. The next new release I read was The Princess and the Grilled Cheese. This is a comic book or a graphic novel, and it is a standalone graphic novel. And it is basically about a young woman who lives in this fantastical, maybe Regency, maybe Rococo / inspired world, but has fantastical and scientific technology fantasy elements to it. So it's kind of a mishmash world that we're living in, but with like that Regency kind of manners air. And basically her father passes away. She's set to inherit, but she obviously has to get married. She doesn't want to do that, so she decides to dress up as a boy and take on the title of Lord, basically to inherit the estate and to not have to get married. But that starts some complications when she starts to fall in love with the princess, who she meets and becomes closer with. There's a lot going on in this book, a lot of like context setting stuff, a lot of friendship and relationship drama, and it was cute. It was adorable. I loved the art style, but it wasn't like a perfect read for me. I felt like it could have been longer, could have been expanded. So I gave it like a 3.5 stars. Cute, enjoyable, a good time, great art, just not my favorite comic book graphic novel. The next new release I read was Moby Dyke. This is a non-fiction book, and it is about a woman who is traveling to all the different lesbian bars in the United States at the time as they are slowly seeming to be going out of business, and just kind of her experience at these locations. And this was really enjoyable. I gave it a 4 stars. I really liked it. It's like enough of a personal story, memoir kind of deal, but with like travel-y stuff and like queer culture stuff. It's very interesting, very good, very different than my personal queer experience, which I want to read more about that. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, would highly recommend it. A great fun nonfiction read. The next book I have on here is Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. This is a part of the Brightfall series and is in fact the last book in the Brightfall trilogy series. Basically, Brightfall, the first book, Delilah Green Doesn't Care, introduces us to this small Oregonian, I believe, town. They might be in Washington, but you know, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. And Delilah is from this small town and she's traveling back there to participate in a wedding. We are kind of introduced to Iris Kelly and Astrid Parker, who are like her childhood enemies slash stepsister, and we get introduced to this friend group in this like small town. And so the second book is Astrid Parker, her stepsister, and the third book is Iris Kelly, who is the very boisterous, very artsy friend who is set to be debuting as a romance author and is struggling with artist block, and somehow she ends up becoming involved in a community production of Much Ado About Nothing, which is personally one of my favorite Shakespeare plays. And there's a lot going on. It's wrapping up the series. It's giving us a fuller depth to Iris Kelly and her story. Really cute. I wish the play had been a little bit more a part of the book. I wish the rehearsal process was in there a little bit more. But overall, I just really like the series. I really like these characters. It was great to explore Iris in greater depth. I really enjoyed her as a character, and I gave this 4 stars. I just love this series overall. Really, really great. And then the final new release I have is Fence Volume 5. This is a part of the Fence graphic novel series, and it is a sports coming of age queer contemporary graphic novel series. It's campy, it's fun, it's over the top, it's ridiculous, but so great. I absolutely love it. You know, I'm just hoping it gets finished out. I really want this series to be finished because I just love it so much. But in this one, we are kind of getting more into what is eventually going to be the main conflict of the story, I believe, where we're going into this competition setting, and I'm just so excited about it. If you love sports anime, but you're looking for something that is actually, you know, on page queer, this is definitely a great place to start. A lot of fun. So yeah, those are all the 2023 releases I read this year, so not a lot. There's just so much great backlog that I want to read. It means that there's also now a lot of 2023 releases that I didn't get to read that are now backlogged that I now want to read. And so I was kind of just going through looking at stuff. There's a ton more that I want to read, but these are some of the big ones that I was really looking at. The first one being He Who Drowned the World. This is the second and final book in the She Who Became the Sun, that series by Shelley Parker Chan. I'm surprised I didn't get to this one this year, but I just had a lot of books on my stack when it came out, so I just never purchased it. But this is historical fantasy. I've heard the second one is even better than the first, and I loved the first, so I'm just really looking forward to this. And I really hope, like, this is the #1 thing that I do want to read in 2024 that is a new release from last year. Some other books that were piquing my interest was going to be Daughters of Isdiror, and then The Adventures of Amelia al-Sarafia. These are both adult fantasies. I believe they have sapphic elements to them, maybe only Daughters of Isdiror, and both of these are non-Western fantasies, which does pique my interest, but honestly, don't know a lot about these. I know one is like pirate swashbuckling series. I have no idea, but I love the cover for it. It looks really cool. I want to read both of these. For young adult, I'm kind of stepping away from young adult, but there's still some things I want to read, notably Heartstopper Volume 5, which came out at the end of this year. I need to to buy it from the UK so it matches the other editions I have, but it is something that I do want to pick up. And then the other young adult novel that I was really looking at was Study in Drowning. This kind of hit it off on BookTube, was really popular on Book Talk as well. And along with that, it is by Ava Reed, who I have read one book from and really enjoyed. I really like her style, and I'm interested to see it in a YA sphere, and that is like dark academia, fantasy, stuff like that. Really interested in that one. But yes, let me know some of the books that you didn't get to in 2023 that you wished you would have. I know there's a St. Martin's Press title that I really want to read as well, but I'm not talking about St. Martin's Press because of the boycott. But I would love to know what other books you wish you would have gotten to so I can put them on my list and be reminded of them. Also, let me know what are some of the 2023 releases that you did read and enjoy. And as always, the algorithm is not a friend to small creators, so any comments, likes, subscribes, really appreciated, and I would love to just talk with you. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later, and happy reading!